This week on Africa Update, Sudan reinstated Prime Minister to investigate human rights violations, review appointments by military. Ethiopia leader leads fight against Tigrayans from the front lines as he hands over office to deputy. Gambia's Truth Commission recommends prosecution for Jammeh-era crimes. South Africa detects new variant of COVID-19 amid arrival of EU-donated vaccines. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Africa Update. I am Ayuba. Thank you for joining. We begin from North Africa, where Sudan reinstated Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok launched investigation into violations committed against protesters since the military power grab on October 25th. Sudan's military reinstated Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok on Sunday and promised to release all political detainees after weeks of deadly unrest triggered by a coup. Under an agreement signed with military leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, Hamdok, first appointed after the overthrow of autocrat Omar al-Bashir in 2019 uprising, will lead a civilian government of technocrats for a transitional period. The deal faces opposition from pro-democracy groups that have demanded full civilian rule since Bashir's ouster and have been angered by the deaths of dozens of protesters since the October 25th coup. Tens of thousands of people joined scheduled rallies in the capital Khartoum and its twin cities of Omdurman and Bari. Security forces fired bullets and tear gas to disperse them, witnesses said. Meanwhile, Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok says he will review appointments and dismissals made by the military to key state posts. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has gone to direct the war effort from the front lines, and Deputy Prime Minister Demeke Mekonnen Hassan is in charge of routine government business in his absence, reports say. Government spokesman Lagis Tulu detailed the transfer of some routine duties in a news conference, the report from Fana news outlet said. Abiy announced late on Monday he was planning to personally direct the fight against Tigrayan forces and their allies. Last month, Tigrayan forces and their allies threatened to march on the capital, Addis Ababa. They have also been fighting fiercely to try to cut a transport corridor linking landlocked Ethiopia with the region's main port, Djibouti. A Gambian commission wrapped up a sweeping 3-year public inquiry into former President Yahya Jammeh's 22 years in power on Thursday by recommending prosecutions for killings, torture, and other abuses committed during his tenure. The Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission delivered its report to President Adama Barrow 9 days before an election in which the exiled Jammeh has urged his supporters to vote for an opposition coalition. Nearly 400 witnesses testified before the commission, including both victims and perpetrators. In all, 240 to 250 people died at the hands of the state or its agents, the commission said. It recommended that the persons who bear the greatest responsibility for abuses be prosecuted, but did not mention any name. Barrow or his successor have 6 months to decide how to respond to the report, which has not made public. Jammeh is in exile in Equatorial Guinea, where he fled after refusing to accept defeat to Barrow in 2016. Libya's election commission said on Wednesday that Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of former ruler and a major candidate in the December's planned presidential election, was ineligible to run, compounding the turmoil surrounding the vote. The commission said Gaddafi was ineligible because he had been convicted of a crime. A Tripoli court sentenced him to death in absentia in 2015 for war crimes committed during the uprising against his late father, Muammar Gaddafi, in 2011. Gaddafi was one of 25 candidates the commission disqualified in an initial decision, pending appeal process that will ultimately be decided by the judiciary. Some 98 Libyans registered as candidates. Disputes over the election rules, including the legal basis of the vote and who should be eligible to stand threatened to derail an internationally backed peace process aimed at ending a decade of violent factional chaos. Staying with Libya, the United Nations Libya mediator Jan Kubis is stepping down, a UN spokesman said on Tuesday, less than a year after he took up the role and a month before planned elections in the country. The United Nations is informally suggesting veteran British diplomat Nicholas Kay as a replacement, said diplomats speaking on condition of anonymity. The 15-member UN Security Council, operating by consensus, must approve a new appointment. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres accepted Kubis' resignation with regret, spokesman Stephanie Dujarric said. It was not immediately clear why Kubis was stepping down. Now, militiamen killed about 20 people during an attack on displaced civilians in northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the government has said. Jules Ngongo, a spokesperson for Ituri's military government, said fighters from the Codeco militia raided the village of Drodro on Sunday night. He said they killed 12 civilians, 6 of them children. Patrick Moyaya, the spokesperson for the national government, later said on Twitter that the death toll stood at around 20. Now, a terrorist suicide bombing outside a school in Somalia's capital killed 8 people and wounded 17, including 13 children. The bombing at around 7:30 a.m. was claimed by Al-Shabaab militants who said that they intended to strike a United Nations security convoy passing near the school. A UN spokesperson in Mogadishu declined to comment. A staff member speaking on condition of anonymity said no international personnel from the UN were hurt, but they had no information on whether Somali employees were hurt. Now, West and Central Africa has recorded the highest number of children recruited into conflicts of any region in the world, and the number is growing, the United Nations Children's Agency said on Tuesday. Children are used as fighters as well as messengers, spies, cooks, cleaners, guards, and porters by armed groups from Mali to Democratic Republic of Congo, UNICEF said in a report. The United Nations verified about 21,000 children as being recruited by armed forces and non-state armed groups in the region between 2016 and 2020. The number of United Nations verified cases increased by 16% to 4,592 children in 2020 from 3,947 children in 2016, UNICEF said. Now, Burkina Faso on Tuesday buried many of the 49 gendarmes killed in a recent strike on a security outpost, even as the government reported the killing of around 20 more military police and civilians in a separate attack. Escalating bloodshed has provoked protest and calls for President Roch Kabore to resign over the authorities' failure to curb a 4-year Islamist insurgency that has killed thousands and forced more than 1 million people to flee their homes. The November 14 attack near the northern Burkinabe town in Inata, which also killed 4 civilians in addition to the 49 gendarmes, was the worst loss suffered by the state security forces in recent years. Hundreds of mourners watched in silence as flatbed trucks delivered around 30 coffins, each wrapped in a Burkinabe flag, to a cemetery in the capital Ouagadougou for a mass funeral. Meanwhile, Burkina Faso President Roch Kabore promised to end dysfunction within the military in a speech as the nation braced for more protest against worsening insecurity. 3 Burkina Faso soldiers died and 11 militants were killed during an attack on the troops on Wednesday, the latest of the 3 attacks since November 14 that have killed over 60 security forces and more than a dozen civilians. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets of the capital, Ouagadougou, last week, demanding Kabore resign for failing to rein in militants linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State who have waged a 4-year insurgency. He said disciplinary measures will follow an inquiry into the worst recent attacks on the troops. He also pledged to launch an anti-corruption drive and said military chiefs needed to be closer to troops on ground. You're watching Africa Update on Trust TV. Coming up, South Africa detects new variant of COVID-19 amid arrival of EU-donated vaccines. Join us again for details shortly. Thanks for staying with us. This is Africa Update. Here is another look at some of the top stories again. Sudan reinstated Prime Minister to investigate human rights violations, review appointments by the military. Ethiopia leader leads fight against Tigrayans from the front lines as he hands over office to deputy. Moving on, South African scientists have detected a new COVID-19 variant in small numbers and are working to understand its potential implications, they said on Thursday. The variant, called B11529, has a very unusual constellation of mutations which are concerning because they could help it evade the body's immune response and make it more transmissible, scientists told reporters at a news conference. Early signs from diagnostic laboratories suggest the variant has rapidly increased in the most populated province of Gauteng and may already be present in the country's other 8 provinces, they said. In a regular daily update on confirmed cases countrywide, the National Institute for Communicable Disease reported 2,465 new COVID-19 infections, slightly less than double the previous day's infections. The NICD did not attribute the latest resurgence to the new variant, although some leading local scientists suspect it is the case. The first of nearly 100 million doses of Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine being donated by the European Union by year-end have begun arriving in African countries, a statement by Gavi Vaccine Alliance said. Belgium negotiated the deal as part of the bloc's overall pledge to share at least 500 million doses with low and lower middle-income countries by mid-2020, Gavi said. The first doses have reached Niger, with more doses arriving in a number of countries this week. Ursula von der Leyen, European Commission President, said in the statement that also listed Guinea-Conakry, Mauritania, the Central African Republic, Djibouti, Nigeria, Togo, and the Republic of Congo. After a century and a half hidden in private collections, 13 stolen Ethiopian artifacts have finally returned home following months of negotiations. The items, which include an intricately latticed processional cross, a richly colored triptych depicting Jesus' crucifixion, and an ornate red and brass imperial shield, are part of the largest act of restitution in Ethiopia's history, officials said. These artifacts were taken in 1868 after the Battle of Magdala between the British and Ethiopian empires. Some of the objects had been offered in an auction in Britain in June by a private seller descended from a British soldier who fought in Magdala. A recent graduate in food processing technology at Harare Institute of Technology, Kudzai Makaza, is determined to popularize healthy traditional foods. Her first offering, baobab and banana smoothies, are selling like proverbial hotcakes. Take a look.
My name is Kudzai Rosemary Makaza, and I'm the founder and managing director of Artisanal Food Zimbabwe, which is a company that is into the value addition of local ingredients to produce highly nutritious, affordable, functional foods that are targeted towards the mass market in Zimbabwe that are suffering from ailments such as diabetes, high blood pressure, hidden hunger, or people who are seeking for healthy alternatives for a preventative diet. So basically we just make sure that our valve is closed, because this is the valve that we also use to empty whilst boiling is done. With baobab, which is high in vitamin C and high in iron. And we came up with a product in the form of a baobab juice that is affordable for anyone, sold at only 50 USD cents or 50 RTGS Zimbabwean dollar. We also came up with green banana flour as well as an instant banana porridge. And the banana porridge and the green banana flour are high in vitamin A and vitamin B, as well as potassium for heart health.
Now, oil and water don't mix, they say. In the case of Liz Ungwane, you can make that oil and sustainable fashion. The designer and influencer gave up a job in the lucrative oil business in order to build a sustainable Cameroonian fashion label. Now she wants to use her own example to help change an industry. Her story. Now, with that, we wrap up Africa Update for this week. Join us again next week on another edition of the program. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching.